Okay, I'm back immediately after recording the proximity mine video. Welcome back to Overclock Workshop, the series where we take a look at things that have overclocks or even don't have overclocks and give them more overclocks or give them overclocks. This week on the chopping block is the trusty cluster grenade, aka the not so trusty cluster grenade, because I don't like it that much. Tyler hates it. I think it is the weakest gunner grenade. I do not use the sticky grenades at all, though, so that's interesting. Either way, let's see what we can do with it in regards to any kind of changes that could be made, any kind of some kind of what's the word? Pitch for grenade overclocks being a thing. Let's see where we can go with this. I want to note that literally every idea contained within this has some kind of something to do with the number of bomblets, which is pretty interesting. But that's really why I think the cluster grenade is so interesting. It's really got this multi-projectile thing going on that nothing else really has. You know, because we have pellet weapons, but they're not projectiles, they're hit scan. And we have, I suppose, things that do shoot out multiple that you could do something with. The Hurricane's a good example of having multiple projectiles out at one time. And then also the Shredders, I suppose, do exist, but the Shredders, it's too small and too definitive to really, in my opinion, to alter the number, except in the context of the War Party Overclock, where it was... Oh shit, I'm not supposed to talk about it. I haven't done that yet. So ignore what I just said. There's no War Party Overclock. It doesn't exist. Don't worry about it. Anyway, cluster grenade. What would a clean Cruster grenade overclock look like? Goodness me, this is going to be a word soup. Boomtown releases a randomized number of bomblets from 7 to 14. What if grenades had homebrew powder? You'd give it to the cluster grenade. Although actually, I guess any other one would make more sense. You definitely want it to be random per grenade, but the idea of a randomized number of bomblets I find absolutely both hysterical but also hysterical. I think it would be fun, I think it would be strong, I think it would be cool, and I think it would be funny. I just think this is too good of an idea to sort of shout down. And I think that the best way to sort of approach this in terms of how we would actually put it in the game, in acknowledgement of how unlikely grenade overclocks are, this, honestly, if we go off of cluster grenades not being that popular, this could be added to the base cluster grenade. I actually think that's possible. Maybe more so along the lines of, because for those of you who don't know, the actual count of bomblets that it releases is 9. So we're going from a range of -2 to +5. If we wanted to add it to the base grenade, it might be more appropriate as -2 to +2, 7 to 11, which would be acceptable. Either way, random number of bomblets, I cannot let go of this. I think it would be awesome and hilarious, and I'd absolutely love to see it. So it kind of stops there, to be honest. I guess the other thing is any other grenades that this would work on. Well, maybe not. Also, how did it get offset like that? I apologize. I that should not have been the case. I do apologize. It's something. I think it's something to do with PowerPoint. Maybe, I don't know. I don't use PowerPoint. Who told you that? Yeah. Well, I was going to say a good one. Oh right, yeah. So the idea of a random number of projectiles, I think, is actually something interesting that we can draw from this. Apparently, I'm low on disk space. Okay. Okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So I might have just deleted a bunch of stuff from my computer. I did. Anyway, what I was going to mention is, obviously, I do think this is an awesome idea. Would be fantastic if we had grenade overclocks and we could get this, but also I think there's a version of it that could also be added to the base grenade itself, which would be fantastic. And to extrapolate even further, the idea of a randomized number of projectiles, well, I mean, pellet weapons, first of all. Both the Warthog and the Boomstick would be awesome to see that on, obviously. And honestly, I think it would suit Sludge Blast. I was going to say Salvin Module as well, but Sludge Blast I think it would suit as well. I mean, the Sludge Pump obviously does deal with a a multiple projectile shot with the charge shot. So actually having a random amount of fragments could also be an interesting way of doing that. If you consider the sludge pump actually something of a cluster grenade launcher, a sludgester grenade launcher, I should say. So yeah, I think this one actually works on a number of different wavelengths, as I mentioned at the beginning of the previous video in the series. That sometimes I operate on different wavelengths from overclock to overclock, but some of the overclocks themselves operate on multiple, and I think this is one that does. In fact, it has sort of 3 different avenues it could go down in terms of finding a home, in terms of the original idea that I came up with, finding a home in the game. What would be more difficult than that is something like plasma compass. The idea here being, well, it says bombnets fire out in straight lines, exploding on contact or after a brief delay, with no damage fall off because it's plasma, but we have a reduced bomblet count down to 8 because it's 8 directions. Small reduction to bomblet explosion radius. Obviously, the penalties don't really matter too much. 1 less bomblet does because it's a compass, so it needs to go out in 8 different directions. We don't have 9. This one goes up. Maybe one goes down, in fact. Maybe we could actually increase the count. I don't know. Maybe it could be almost be a sphere where you would have sort of one going like that, and then. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. It would sort of form like a disc, you know? Imagine what you're looking at there in that symbol. That's the overhead of it exploding. They would go out in those different directions in straight lines as well, which I really love the idea of, which is something fairly befitting of its own grenade. I would love to see something that sort of, you throw it out and it just sort of hovers for a moment and shoots out these multiple projectiles that go in a straight line and sort of even bounce around. I'd love to see them bounce. I want to see some kind of ricocheting grenade. That's sort of what this comes down to, I think, actually. Even though it doesn't mention ricochet. A grenade that travels in a straight line, though, is an idea that I kind of just love for some reason. We saw it with the HE grenade video, so, and you're seeing it again here. I don't really know where to go with this, apart from the fact, I mean, really, the description that I put here is wildly appropriate, because that's basically how I feel. But yeah, that's it. Let's wrap this up, because I've getting late, kind of. Who wouldn't want to see grenades that literally go in straight lines? Wouldn't that be weird if the cluster grenade could do that? Alright, let's quick one ahead. Bonus package. It's a Borderlands reference. Bomblets release a secondary bomblet upon detonation. That's not random, is it? It's just double the amount. Can you get away with that? No. Would it see anything other than a cluster grenade overclock? No. But the idea of projectiles splitting into more projectiles is not completely lost. I want to see that on the Hurricane, personally. I would love to see that. The Hurricane sort of dropping like projectiles as it flies or something like that. I think would be incredible. I want to see clusters in other parts of the game as well. I really want a cluster grenade overclock for the PGL. That'd be awesome. But yeah, the cluster grenade itself, obviously it would work as an unstable overclock if we had grenade overclocks. Apart from that, like projectile splitting could be seen in other places, like the grenade launcher, like Hurricane. Although, I think that's probably it. That's a bit annoying, isn't it? I mean, the crossbow could split, but then the sort of just like trifork volley, I guess. Yeah, it's going to seem really cheap, but I'm going to put a pin in this. This was very brief. I didn't get a huge amount out of it, but that's sort of kind of where the series is going. I don't know why that's offset itself again. This is very, very slapdash, very unsophisticated. I'm not too worried about that. I don't hold this to a ridiculously high standard. I shouldn't say ridiculously. It's not even close to any kind of high standard. It's just me trying to get out there some ideas that I've come up with that I do think are kind of cool. And it just so happened that these weren't that conducive to the overall game, except the first one. And I do think there's value in all of them. I think the first one and the last one both have value in terms of being mechanics that I'd love to see extrapolated from this and put in other areas of the game that we already have. But it kind of stops there, and that's okay. So if you did enjoy this, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe. you can click the notification bell if you want to see more of this. God bless you if you do. But either way, I appreciate all the love, all the support, all the views, even criticism is absolutely welcome. I love it. I love all of it. You guys are the best. See you next time.